Hey everyone, today is Monday, February 8th, 2021, and we are working on telling and writing time to the nearest minute. We're learning this so that we can tell time and be able to stay on a schedule based on time. I know that we're successful when we can persevere through problems that are hard, and we can read an analog and clock and determine the time to the nearest minute. So today we're going to think about who has the time. How can we tell time to the nearest minute? Your learning target for today is I will tell and write time to the nearest minute. So we're going to take a look at an analog clock and we're going to decide and think about these questions as we work through. What do we know about an analog clock? What information can we gather from it? What does the shorthand tell us? What does the longhand tell us? And what does the white hand tell us? Now, in some clocks, it could be a red line, it could be a white line, or it could just be a very thin hand that tells us. So that white hand is not necessarily going to be on every clock in that color. It could also be red and sometimes just a very thin black. Now, when we're reading an analog clock, and we're thinking about the hours, before digital clocks were even invented, people all told time with analog clocks. Analog clocks are still everywhere, and they look like this. Now, we got to think about in our classroom, if you have already seen our classroom this year, we don't have a digital clock in there. The only digital clocks that you will find in our classroom will be on our computer. I have an analog clock on our wall. And an analog clock has a short hand that tells the hour, a long hand that tells the minutes, and some analog clocks, just like the one we saw earlier, have a thin red second hand. Now, it moves much faster than the other hand, so it's easy to tell that it's not the minute hand. The second hand goes much faster. The minute hand moves slowly, and the hour hand moves even slower. So we're going to think about how we can tell the difference in the hands on the clocks. And this is going to be your hour hand. It is the short hour hand. This is the long minute hand. And then you'll see, in this clock we don't have one, but you will see that second hand, which goes much faster. So do you remember how long hours, minutes, and seconds are? So let's just do a quick review of that so that we can start putting time on a clock and understanding what each of those mean. So let's just review. If I am talking about time, I see that one day is equal to 24 hours. One day equals 24 hours. Now each hour has 60 seconds. Each hour has 60 minutes. So each hour has 60 minutes. And then we're going to break it down into a minute. 1 minute has 60 seconds. So if we're looking at this clock, one day is 24 hours. And I didn't mean clock, I meant time. If we're looking at time, each day has 24 hours. 1 hour equals 60 minutes. And 1 minute equals 60 seconds. So hours are long. If we're looking at that, hours are long. Minutes are short. So that means that the clock's going to move just a little bit faster on minutes. The hand is going to move faster. The minute hand's going to move faster than the hour. And the short hand, or the second hand, is very short. It moves much faster. And you'll watch that on a clock. If you watch an analog clock that has all three hands, you're going to see that that second hand is short. The seconds are shorter, so it means that it's moving faster around the clock. So you can watch those hands and actually see it. Basically, we need to memorize that one day equals 24 hours, 1 hour equals 60 minutes, and 1 minute is 60 seconds. And if we're thinking about hours are long, minutes are short, and seconds are even very, very short, let's think about what 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock is? It is 1 hour. Most math classes last 1 hour. Our math class is a little bit longer than that. So here's what an analog clock looks like at regular speed. You're going to see that that second hand is moving very fast, which means that it's a shorter span of time if we're thinking about how it's going to move. It's very short because it's moving and it makes the hand move faster. Now, our minute hand is this long hand here, and it does not move as fast, but it's still shorter than an hour, so it's going to move a little faster than the hour hand. And then you've got the hour hand that's kind of right underneath the second hand. Under the minute hand, and you can tell that it is not moving much at all. So that's telling you that it's going to be a little longer. Now remember, the red second hand ticks every second, so it's going to go much faster. And the second hand is the only hand that looks like it's moving most of the time. We have to really watch the clock to see the others move, because they take a little longer to move. But the other hands are moving too. We don't see it because they move very slowly. The illustration is going to show you the second hand is the only hand that looks like it's moving, but the other hands are moving too, just very slow. So here's what an analog clock looks like with the time sped up. So you're looking at how fast it actually is moving. We just don't see it as much as we see that second hand moving. The hour hand moves the slowest. In one day, it moves all the way around the clock only twice. Here's what it looks like with the time sped up even faster. So we're looking at that hour hand. So every hour, the short hour hand moves just a little bit around the clock. Every hour, the long hand moves all the way around the clock. So the hour hand, which is the short hand, moves just a little bit around the clock. And remember, the hour hand moves the slowest, and every day it moves all the way around the clock only twice. Now the minute hand, however, it moves every hour, and the long hand moves all the way around the clock every hour. Let's see if we can answer these questions, because we're trying to find out what we already know about an analog clock. What does the shorthand tell us? Yes, it tells us the hour. It tells us the hour. What does the longhand tell us? It tells us the minutes. And what does the white hand or the red hand or the short hand tell us? Oh, I'm sorry, not the short hand. The second hand tell us. It tells us the seconds. It tells us how many seconds has passed. Time is the duration of an event from beginning to end. Time can be measured in standard units such as seconds, minutes, hours, and days. Time is also categorized by AM or PM. Both analog and digital clocks are instruments to tell time. So we see both in our real world. Time can be told to the nearest hour, half an hour, quarter of an hour, or to the minute. Elapsed time can be found by finding the total amount of time that passes between a starting time and an ending time. In some problems, you may know the elapsed time and have to calculate the beginning or ending time. So that's what we're going to be working toward. We're going to be working toward being able to tell how much time's passed, when something started, based on when it ended, or find out when it's going to end based on when it started. So we're going to be able to figure out when that elapsed time, how much elapsed time occurred, once we learn a little bit more about clocks. Well, if I were to ask you to show me the time on this clock, you would look at each number. You got to think about hopping each number from one number to the other. It's 5 minutes. So this would be 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. So that would be our 60 minutes in 1 hour. Now these little dots represent minutes counting by 1. So if I'm hopping here, it would be 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes. So it's kind of like a number line when we're setting up a number line that maybe is hopping up by 5s. If you remember us hopping, in between 0 and 5, we have numbers as well. So that's kind of what these dots represent, is those 1 minute at a time. So it would be 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, and each one of those dots represents a total of 60 minutes when we get back to 12. What we're going to do is we're going to show on this clock a time of 10:45. Now, there is one more thing that I do want to tell you about a clock that we can break it down in. Remember, I said quarters earlier and half an hour. So a half an hour is going to be 30 minutes. So this would be 1/2 of the hour, just like splitting it right down the middle. This would be a half an hour to 30, and this would be a half an hour from 30 to 60. So you can see as this clock goes, if we split it right down the middle, just like it is kind of right now with the shorthand and the longhand, you can see that this is 1/2 of the clock, which is 30 minutes, and this is the other half of the clock, which is also 30 minutes. Now, if I'm thinking about quarters, I kind of think of quarters in dollars. When I hear the word quarter, I think of those 4 quarters that it takes to make $1. So a quarter is going to be half of the 30 minutes. So if I'm looking at half of that, a quarter is going to take me to 3. So this would be a quarter here, and sometimes you can hear it read as a quarter after 1. And then this would be the next quarter. So there's 2 quarters. Up from 6 to 9 is the 3rd quarter of the clock, and then from 9 to 12 is the 4th quarter. So there's 4 quarters in time as well. The first quarter, and I'm not talking about what an actual coin is, I'm talking about time here, but I think of quarters when I do think about that because of the money situation. It makes it easier for me to think of quarter math because money is something we use daily. So this is also representing a quarter. Now I want you to put on your clock 10:45. So the hour is going to be 10. So I'm going to take my shorthand to the 10, and remember that the first hour, and we'll talk about that in just a second. Let me go ahead and move this around. Oops, trying to move it around there. So I'm going to get it on 10:45. Now remember, we can count by our 5s to find 45. So I want the clock to show the time, and I do have it on 10:45. We have to keep in mind that if the hour hand is between 2 hours, and look, it almost looks like it's at 11, but it's not quite there yet. So if it is between 2 hours, like 10 and 11, and it's pointing there, it's always going to go back to the hour before. So it's always going to go to the hour before. So it's showing 10 here. And then my second hand, or my minute hand, is showing 45. So it's right on that 3rd quarter of the clock. So remember, we talked about quarters: 3, 6, 9, 12. So it's showing 10:45. Now, when we read this time, you may hear it said, we may not say it's 10:45. We may say it's a quarter till 11. So it's going toward 11. It can be read differently, and you may hear it read differently. So today, after you finish all of your work, I would like for you to practice on reading an analog clock. Find some online and read the time. And we're going to focus on reading to the nearest minute. Focus on reading to the nearest minute. I hope everybody has a great day, and I look forward to seeing you.